So, what day is it today?
Tuesday?
Wrong. It's NWA Day.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
Okay, let's party.
It's the pre-party with 𝙍𝙬𝙀.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is 𝙍𝙬𝙀, and each and every Tuesday, over 52 times this year, we've been live to talk pro wrestling with you, that hashtag NWA fam. So we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you hanging out. And very happy to have you guys here to hang out with me on our last episode of the year. This is it. And when I say this is it, I mean like this is it. Like this is officially it. We're done for a whole 4 days. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you hanging out. And again, my name is 𝙍𝙬𝙀. And as soon as I figure out, I will talk some more wrestling. Now, the question was just posed to me over here on TikTok, and I'm going to explain myself guys here on YouTube as well. What's up, Haley? Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I hope you had a great seasonal holiday. Seasonal holiday? Holiday season is what I meant to say. But what's up, Haley? I hope you're doing well. Vapor Run, I am not Kevin Owens. In fact, my name is 𝙍𝙬𝙀. Welcome to the show. Now, the question I'm going to answer before I get to Rob's question is, and I love that Dark Angel asked me this question. So I want to get to it a little bit, but Dark Angel said, what is your favorite part about the NWA as a whole? Is it the history, the way they do their wrestling? And I get this question a lot. A lot of people ask me, why do I like the NWA so much? And it's a multifaceted question. I do love my history. I love history. That was my favorite subject in high school and elementary school and even in college. Not wrestling. History is always fun to me. History is very interesting. And when we talk about pro wrestling, there is a lot of history involved with pro wrestling, but there's only one organization in the United States that goes back to all the way to 1948, and that's the National Wrestling Alliance. And every single major wrestling promotion in the United States has kind of had some sort of tie to the NWA. And I mean, the most prominent wrestling promotions like the AWA. Now, if you got to be an old head to remember the AWA, the American Wrestling Association, which was based in the Midwest by Greg Gagne, was a part of the National Wrestling Alliance. The Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which was based in New York and Connecticut, that was also a part of the NWA. Jim Crockett Promotions, which would later become WCW, part of the NWA. Even World Class Wrestling had its roots in the National Wrestling Alliance. ECW had its roots in the National Wrestling Alliance. And even a promotion like All Elite Wrestling, they were never a part of the NWA, but their first unofficial show, which was All In, featured an NWA World Title match right smack dab in the middle of the show. It was one of the most popular matches of the night, and that was Cody Rhodes versus Nick Aldis for the 10 pounds of gold. We've seen the 10 pounds of gold appear in many of the wrestling promotions throughout the years. I mean, Dan the Beast Severn brought the 10 pounds of gold to the WWE back in the day. Ken Shamrock was NWA World Champion in TNA Wrestling. He was the first officially recognized TNA NWA World Champion. That was another thing that I missed. TNA, its first 4 years of existence, was licensing the NWA IP as its own. So whenever we talk about the National Wrestling Alliance, it's the history. The history of that has brought that together. Now, in the early 2000s, I guess in the 90s, I rediscovered that the NWA was even still in existence. You know, the NWA to a lot of people was Jim Crockett Promotions. So a lot of people consider the NWA part of that became WCW, which that wasn't exactly true. Jim Crockett Promotions was a member of the NWA. They became WCW. You know, and I left out New Japan Pro Wrestling at one point was part of the NWA. All Japan Pro Wrestling was part of the NWA. EMLL, which later would become CMLL, was also part of the NWA. So they all had this rich history and tradition that links it all together. But I would see Dan Severn bring the 10 pounds of gold into the octagon, into the UFC, his UFC fights. And that reignited my love for the NWA. So Dark Angel, the passion about it, absolutely. Watching the history of the NWA unfold has been pretty cool. I mean, going back to seeing, Dusty Rhodes with the 10 pounds of gold, seeing the title matches that the great Muta had while he held the big gold in New Japan Pro Wrestling as the NWA World Champion, or Barry Windham, or, these are the modern guys. We could talk about Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, Colt Boom Boom Cabana, a friend of the show, the late Jack Stane, Tim Storm, Nick Aldis. I mean, there were so many just even modern day wrestlers who are connected to that brand. And in 2007, we started blogging about the NWA regularly. And so I've been following the NWA for many, many, many years. And I'm very excited about the new champion that is at the helm, who is the Throwbilly Silas Mason. So I hope I answered some of your questions there. But I'm going to read some more of your comments, and then hopefully we can have some more dialogue, because I love talking about the NWA. I like someone that has strong passion for something like this, so I can always learn something new. I'm sure this is probably asked a lot, but do you have a favorite match in the NWA that I should watch? So it's kind of hard because the NWA has been dissected throughout the years. So, I mean, we could talk about the Jim Crockett days, and we could talk about, Ric Flair being world's heavyweight champion. He had a match with a former champion in his own right, Terry Funk, and it was an I Quit match. And it was a really good match between those two. And the rivalry that came, like Terry Funk was working as an announcer, and he asked for the world title shot from Flair. And Flair was like, "You haven't even been a wrestler. You've been in Hollywood acting. Why would I give you a shot?" And then Terry Funk literally put a bag over his head and tried to murder him on live television. I know I can't say these things on TikTok. I'll probably get in trouble for it. But that whole rivalry was great. Sting and Flair's rivalry was great. Dusty and Flair's rivalry was great. But if we're bringing it to specific matches, I would definitely consider the 7 Levels of Hate between Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana as some of my favorite matches. I was very close to that, knowing Adam fairly well, having interviewed him multiple times, and that whole Best of 7 series, the way it came together and the history behind it, and how the NWA pulled the rug out from underneath Adam and Colt really sucked, but it was very cool to see all that. Yeah, I get that a lot, guys, and that's okay. You can think I look like Kevin Owens. Just don't call me Kevin Owens. Just don't call me Kevin Owens. I'm J-Cal, not Kevin Owens. All right. Now I'm going to go back over here onto YouTube and talk about some of the questions that they have. First of all, Worm, that's my guy Jeremy, of course. What is up? Happy New Year. I hope you're having a great holiday season as well. Miss seeing you guys here on the other Alliance guys, but hopefully you guys will reconvene in 2026. We'll see. Patrick Moore asks a great question. Let me address something else real quick, Patrick, and then I'll answer your question. But over on YouTube, they said, is it by accident that you look like him, or do you actually try to? I mean, I don't think I look like Kevin Owens as much as the internet thinks I look like Kevin Owens. I've been actively dieting, so I'm not as big as Kevin Owens. I'm not as tall as Kevin Owens. I do not dye my hair to look like Kevin Owens. I mean, I'm a 47-year-old white male with a beard. That's like half the people I know. I don't understand why everyone thinks I look like Kevin Owens, and I don't have a Canadian accent. Dark Angel, you're asking really good questions. All right. How did the Alliance first form? I'm assuming you mean the actual Alliance and not the podcast that we do over here. But the Alliance formed in 1948 when they were trying to basically control the business. There were a lot of wrestling promotions. There's still, I mean, even after the NWA formed, there were lots of wrestling promotions, but they were trying to pool their resources to recognize one champion. And the reason why that's significant, because at that point, anybody could call themselves a world champion. We see that today. We see it right now. I mean, how many independent wrestling promotions are out there calling their guy a world champion? Guy who doesn't travel 45 miles out of the state, and he's calling himself a world champion. It's a bit ridiculous, right? So they had one recognizable world champion. And back in those days, wrestling was very, it was still a show. Everything was still a work, but there were people who would go into business for themselves, and they would legitimately try to hurt a champion. So you wanted a guy who, at the time, the expression was a hooker, but we call it a shooter today. Somebody who could defend themselves and protect the business. And the first champion that they settled on was Orville Brown. And again, he was an athlete, he was a wrestler, but he got injured early on, and then that accolade went to Luthez. They were going to recognize one champion, and that one champion becomes a draw, becomes a bigger deal. And now there's one champion going around, and he literally is collecting world titles from other wrestling promotions well before Kenny Omega did it. And this was the original Infinity Gauntlet, where he took the world title from the Minneapolis Wrestling Group. He took the world title from Los Angeles. He unified it with the world championship from Boston and the world championship from New York. And they literally built this title, the world's heavyweight championship, to represent all of the wrestling. And that's why it followed that way. And that's basically why the alliance formed. They were looking to enrich their own wrestling promotions that were a part of it, but then like trying to stabilize the business and have control over it. And then, you'll hear somebody like Jim Cornette say Mud Show or Outlaw. Anyone that wasn't a part of the NWA was considered an outlaw. I want your thoughts or predictions on the Usos winning last night. I believe Roman is going to win. Hey, I appreciate you asking the question, but right now, my name I said. This is the NWA portion of the show, so I'm not going to really be doing WWE answers. Appreciate you being here. And if you catch me next Tuesday, the hour before, I spend the whole hour talking about all wrestling. But this hour, we speak only about the NWA. So the next question is, you guys are talking so much over here on YouTube. Some of your guys' questions too. Willie Bowen says, "Hi, I usually don't like intergender matches, but Tyrus versus Jenny Craig would be a great match. You know who loses that one, Willie? Anybody who watches it." Okay. All right, Patrick Moore, I want to get to your question because you always have thought-provoking questions. Why did Bob Trowbridge not want to count the NWA Tag Team Champions from WCW from 92 to 93? And I think it's a very simple answer, Patrick. Now, remember, Trowbridge didn't start this season of the NWA. He was kind of the end cap of it, right? He was the guy who was towards the end leadership of the NWA, but it originally started off as like Dennis Corluzzo and Howard Brody, with Trowbridge not really being involved. But he didn't recognize the tag titles from WCW, mostly because that wasn't their intellectual property. Remember, the NWA was a co-op. That changed when Bruce Tharpe took over the NWA. Up until 2012, from 1948 to 2012, the NWA was always a co-op. There was multiple wrestling promotions a part of this alliance. When we talk about Jim Crockett Promotions, JCP, they were a member of the NWA as well as, at various points, New Japan Pro Wrestling was a member of the NWA. Likewise, Dave Marquez and his Championship Wrestling from Hollywood was a part of the NWA. The Eastern Championship Wrestling, which would later become ECW, was a part of the NWA. So all of these promotions were a part of the NWA. But nobody owned the NWA world title that was owned by the LLC, that was owned by the co-op. But like, for example, my friend David Marquez, the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood promoter, he called his secondary title the NWA Heritage Championship. That was a belt that he created. That was his title. They still use that title today, but they've renamed it the United Wrestling Network Heritage Championship. But it would be silly for Bob Trowbridge, or let's change it up a little bit. It'd be silly for Billy Corgan to recognize the United Wrestling Network Heritage Championship as the NWA Championship and try to infer that title had some significance in this version of the NWA when it doesn't. Similarly, the tag team titles of the 80s and 70s and 60s, every single territory had their own version of the world titles. Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA Los Angeles, the San Francisco territory, Florida, everyone had their own world tag team titles. And it's kind of hard to pull everything in and say, what's this and what's that? It just didn't make sense. So when we talk about why did Bob Trowbridge not recognize those titles? Because which lineage of the tag titles do you recognize? And you don't own any of that IP. You're claiming it, but you don't own it. That was owned by Jim Crockett Promotions, which became WCW, which is now owned by the WWE. So it didn't really connect. There's no connective tissue there. You could talk about Dan Severn and you could talk about Bam Bam Terry Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams as the tag team champions. But the connection that those two had while working for JCP was nothing to do with the current NWA. They couldn't really pull from that. So why not recognize the tag titles that were started in your era that were essentially created in Florida in 1994 in the modern Jim Crockett Promotions, Jim Crockett Jr., NWA Dallas. I go live on Tuesdays, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TikTok. And then I'm also live on YouTube from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. I'm not Kevin Owens' chicken butt. Thanks for asking. All right. Let's see. I hope that answered your question, Patrick. And if not, ask me something else. Let's see. Let me get a drink here. Noob says, "Hey, Jake, I got a question for you and the chat. I just watched last week's episode of NWA, but you see Idol and Markova as a new power couple in the NWA or in wrestling in general. Do I see them as the power couple? Not really. I mean, they worked as a tag team, right? The Looks That Kill, but we're not in a promotion that really celebrates intergender wrestling, so we don't really see them as a power couple. And yeah, he's got the TV title, and yeah, she has the women's title, but like, he doesn't accompany her to the ring and vice versa. They don't play manager for one another. They don't really interact in each other's matches. We only see them really during promos and backstage segments. So no, I don't really see them as a power couple. I like Markova. I don't really care for Brian Idol, but I don't see them as a power couple. When we would see Tom Latimer and Camille, Camille would kind of come out with there, and she would be in Tom's corner and vice versa. And I feel like that's what a power couple is. If Mickey James was wrestling around when Nick was here, that would have been a power couple, but we don't really see that much. And even for the short time, Chelsea and Matt Cardona were both working in the NWA. That was kind of a power couple, but they didn't have any titles. So, excuse me. Willie Bowen says Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood versus Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernoodle for the NWA World Tag Team Championship was a classic. I got to go back and see that, Willie. I got to go back and watch some of those matches. Yo, I have the new song Vodka Cranberry stuck in my head. Why does that sound familiar, Double D? Let's see. Weird they recognized the NWA title change in New Japan when Muta got it, but funny they never recognized Doc and Gordy's reign. Yeah, Chris, it's one of those deals where the world title the World Heavyweight Championship has always been a part of the co-op. The tag titles weren't. Remember, every promotion had their own set of tag titles. So let's see. Yeah, man. Devin and Mrs. Dowling as the power couple. There it is. Matthew Underwood, that's a good question. What we do know is that Tharp era is vastly inferior to Lightning One. Matt, I don't know, man. And I know that you and Chris have been having this conversation offline. But can we put something out there real quick? Because I saw Rob Conway defend the 10 pounds of gold at Wrestle Kingdom 3. I did not see EC3, Tom Latimer, Nick Aldis, Tyrus, Matt Cardona, or even Trevor Murdoch take the 10 pounds of gold and wrestle on a major pay-per-view. And oops, sorry. And I don't want to say that, what has happened under the Lightning One era hasn't been important, because obviously there's been a lot of amazing things that happened. And Tom Latimer's reign as champion, I mean, obviously he took the 10 pounds of gold, defended it on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which was a big deal. But Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is nothing compared to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And at the time, New Japan Pro Wrestling was going through one of its hottest phases when Rob Conway was defending the title there. Now, obviously, he wasn't the main event. It was very similar to when Cody and Aldis wrestled for the title at All In. But again, that was a independent show that would become AEW. This was an established number 2 promotion in the world that you put the 10 pounds of gold on, So gosh, man, Matt, I hear you. And I do think there's a ton of great accomplishments that have happened in the Lightning One era, but I don't want to diminish some of the cool things that happened under Bruce Tharp. I will say this. I didn't like Bruce Tharp. I didn't celebrate Bruce Tharp. But you can't take away some of the accolades that he had. There was a lot of cool things that happened. Over on TikTok, they're just calling me Kevin Owens. Nothing but Kevin Owens talk. Real quick, I'm gonna read it. I know Kevin Owens when I see Kevin Owens, and you're Kevin Owens. What's good, Kevin Owens? Bro, I really thought you were Kevin Owens. You and Chris Jericho were a couple. How's your surgery, Mr. Owens? KO. Has anyone ever told you look like Kevin Owens? And then, I don't know, is this Elise right now? I don't know what that means. Owens, Kevin? So, acknowledge you, TikTok audience. Yes, you think I look like Kevin Owens. I do not. There is no dinosaur on my arm. I don't have dinosaur tattoos. None of them, right? I have tattoos, but no Kevin Owens, or no Kevin Owens style tattoos. Oh, come on. Matthew, look, that's being glib, bro. Come on. What? Wrestle Kingdom at this point, is it diminished in quality? Yes. I can agree with you. I can agree with you. It has diminished in quality. But New Japan Pro Wrestling is the biggest wrestling promotion in Japan. And at one point, it was the second biggest wrestling promotion in the world. And during the height of its popularity, when you had the Young Bucks, the Bullet Club, you had Finn Balor. Well, maybe Finn Balor, I take it back. Finn Balor wasn't there yet. But you had Carl the Machine Gun Anderson. You had Gallows. You had, the Bullet Club. You had the Bullet Club, one of the hottest stables at the time. And this was all happening on New Japan. And they were able to carve out time to give us Satoshi Kojima versus Rob Conway. And that led to Kojima winning the title and then defending the title in the UK, defending the title in the US. Like, I'm going to say, man, I think that's a bigger deal than in the Lightning One era. But that's my opinion. I could be wrong. It is what it is. Matthew Underwood. Yeah, they just, I did see that Vaughn and Dalton McKenzie won the NWA Chicago tag titles, which is cool, man. Then taking on the Good Brothers tonight on Power, I think is going to be a very fun match to watch. I recently posted on the YouTube. That was on the Veamos Lucha Libre channel. I recently posted the Good Brothers winning the Crash tag team titles. I really want to see the Good Brothers get on a run in the NWA. I'd like to see them win the tag titles. I would like to see them at the Crockett Cup. I'm really hoping we get a good run with the Good Brothers in the NWA. And tonight, again, they take on the Chicago Tag Team Champions. Although those Chicago tag titles aren't on the line. Those titles, they didn't win those titles until just, I think, like last week. This is a family show. Put the guns away. I'm sorry, Worm. It was an accident. It was trying to show that I don't have the tattoos. You know this, Jeremy. There it is. I've enjoyed a bunch of Lightning One era. However, post-COVID have been mostly a miss. The bad outweighs the good, unfortunately. Look, I would say it's about 50-50 because there's been some pretty cool moments, man. But yeah, there's been some pretty shitty ones too. And if we're just being honest with ourselves, right? We're being honest. Not everything that Billy Corgan and Lightning One era has been great. Not all of it's been good. Not even all of it has been satisfactory. And that's okay. We're, as fans, we're allowed to like and dislike whatever we choose to. And I won't tell Matthew Underwood he's wrong for what he likes. Just like I'm not going to listen to him tell me that I'm wrong for what I like. Nakamura. Yeah, yes, Nakamura was in New Japan at that time, yeah. And Matt, I do agree with you. Saul Win is loaded. And the fact that they were, I still am a little miffed that it took this long to get to Saul Win. I still think the taping schedule is way bloated and stupid at points. Having Matt Cardona on this card, on this episode, I think is great because Cardona, you know, it's just a couple weeks removed from being part of the John Cena retirement tour, right? He was in the tournament, the Time Is Now tournament. We're seeing him in TNA wrestling quite regularly. He's showing up in NXT quite regularly. And now he's in the NWA. And just from perception, you know, just the peepers being able to see a talent like Cardona, who's been everywhere, also in the NWA, I feel like that adds some credibility to it. And yeah, and then on top of having Cardona on this card, we're also getting the Good Brothers on this card. To me, those are two big wins. Huge. And again, if this is what Billy's going to do going forward, I am excited about the future of the NWA. But I'm also not going to get my hopes up and say that this is a new era because we've had this happen to us before. We've had this happen to us before, Matt. You know that. Cardona is Vince Russo's JCW champion. Oh, man, that makes it even well, now it's not as good. Now it's not. Some great questions here. Yeah, Double D. Perfect. Finally, some star power. I agree. I'm excited for it. I think this is good. I think this is good for the NWA. Jack Vaughn, I think, should be a regular part of the NWA roster. Dalton McKenzie, them as a tag team, I'm here for it. I'm good with that. But I'm more excited to see Carl the Machine Gun Anderson and Drew Galloway as the Good Brothers showing up on the program. That is a high caliber tag team. You know, they've won the tag titles everywhere they've been practically. You know, if we're going to be for a second, you know, looking at the Good Brothers, they've held the New Japan, the IWGP tag team titles multiple times, WWE tag titles, the Impact titles. They did not hold the AEW titles, which to me, that was a miss, but they're currently, you know, they've held the ALW titles. They won the Crash tag team titles last month. And then they've been appearing for MLW. They were most recently in Rev Pro. They appeared for my buddies over at the UWN. I mean, that is awesome. And I feel like them showing up in the NWA is good. It's good. They're still calling me Kevin Owens on TikTok. Chris Drummond says, here's some positive news. I believe the Exodus show will be strong. Hope they get some views. I mean, look, the Exodus Pro shows are to me, it's kind of like a mixed bag. You get some good, you get some bad, even on those shows. But I mean, Richard Holiday winning the NWA Midwest Championship, I feel like is a huge victory. Hope that translates to seeing him on Power sometime soon. I would love to see it because Richard Holiday, man, that guy's just getting better and better each time I see him. What NWA titles does Billy Corgan own? Like, can he bring back an NWA regional title if he wants to? Patrick, there's nothing preventing Billy from doing anything. If he wants to make an NWA Intercontinental Championship, he has the right to do that. If he wants to bring an NWA U.S. Championship back, he can. I feel like the leadership prior to COVID didn't want to use redundant championships. If there was an NWA title equivalent in NXT or AEW, I don't think they were interested in doing that. The NWA North American Championship, which is the current design for the national title anyways, that North American title was one of the biggest championships in the company. That was the North American Championship used to be considered the number one contender for the 10 pounds of gold. They opted to go with the national title because no other company at that point had a national championship, and NXT had a North American champion. And then likewise, they brought up the U.S. tag titles because there wasn't a U.S. tag team at the time. There is no U.S. tag team titles currently in pro wrestling that aren't the NWA. So they can bring back any title they want to. The Midwest Championship, that wasn't a Billy Corgan invention. That was copying the old NWA Midwest territory. The same thing with the NWA Texas title. Again, that's a creation, a modern creation. But there was an NWA Texas title before. It's just not connected to the one now. And although Billy, when we say the national championship, because that national championship did have a deeper connection to the NWA back in the day, he's pulling strings to try to make them connected. They're not really connected. The only actual title that's connected to 1948 is the 10 pounds of gold. Like that's it. You can kind of give the Burke the benefit of the doubt, but the junior heavyweight title has been so disconnected. The women's title has been so disconnected. The world championship has always been there. It's never been defunct. I mean, it did take a time off when Ric Flair left WCW, went to the WWE. There was some time there where the title was out of the spotlight. There was some time when Shane Douglas threw the belt down in '94, where again it took him a year to crown a new World's Heavyweight Championship. But the title itself, the championship itself, never disappeared. It was always in the back of people's minds. It was always something that was been around. So from Lou Thesz to Silas Mason, there's continuity. Yes, there's been, like I said, there was times where it was uncrowned, but it never was gone. Will we see Silas Mason wrestle for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling? I don't think we will. I would like to see him show up in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, but I feel like Tom Latimer was booked because he was Tom Latimer, not necessarily because he was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. I feel like the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion was just an extra caveat because Tom Latimer had a background with TNA Wrestling, and Scott D'Amore, I'm sure, was well aware of him before he booked him. And look, there was a lot of reasons that made sense to use Tom Latimer in Scott D'Amore's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I would love to see Silas show up, but I'm just not anticipating it. But hell, I'd love to be wrong. Yeah, Matt, and I hate the fact that they're taping again in February. I thought they were going to give us some time to breathe and get everything all caught up. But remember, what they tape in February, we're not going to see until probably closer to March or April, and now we're like 4 or 5 months out of stuff that they're doing now. Saw Win was filmed in October. That's crazy that we're basically in the new year and we're watching stuff that was taped 2 months ago. Mr. Dead Card Gamer, I agree. I don't like those segments. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Pro wrestling, if this was the barber shop and you had Brutus Beefcake, if this was Piper's Pit, if this was Adrian Adonis's flower shop, something that was in the ring and they did something silly, I would be fine with that. I'd be okay with that. We had Mae Valentine for that kind of stuff. This is not that. This is embarrassing. Those backstage gimmicks are stupid. The video game segments are dumb. whatever. Oh my gosh, yeah, I guess it could be. I wouldn't look the Bullet Club, the NWO, whatever you want to call it. I mean, all that's gone, and I don't think it's coming back. I wouldn't mind if the NWA had some sort of big time group similar to those guys, but I don't think they need it. You know, they just need to have good wrestling. Yeah. The videos, the segments have been very bad. Tyra says NWA World Champion was very bad. If there are NWA fans in here, join the Discord. Absolutely. The Discord link is in the video description. Please, we talk NWA 24/7 in that chat. You can always talk NWA. We are very hive-minded, a group of NWA wrestling fans. And if you want to talk NWA, that is the great place for you to be. Our Discord. And if you need a link, if you don't see it, it's on our YouTube video descriptions right there. I have no idea what you mean, a red-headed Gallagher guy from 205 Live. Is that the guy that would wrestle like in a suit? I don't know if I need him. And that's why I avoid watching JCW because of Vince Russo, 100%. Yeah, Matt, and that, I mean, that's part of the reason why I mentioned it. I'm really excited to see the Good Brothers be a part of this 2026 NWA. And if they're part of this vehicle, part of this machine, like, look, here's what I secretly want, and it's no secret, but I would love to see them titles off of the Immortals. And I'm not saying just bend the Immortals over. I'm like, let's have a good series of matches and have Odinson and Kratos eventually do the job to Gallows and Anderson. And then we can play out Anderson and Gallows versus Murdoch and Knox when they come back. And that would be an interesting dynamic. And now you've got some really good wrestling. That's right. Bring Holiday to Power. I'm with you on that one, Rick. 100%. And Willie, I would like to see more Hammerstone in the NWA as well. Absolutely. Sean, I haven't seen the video yet, but I'll take a look. And look, as far as Hawk Markey goes, I mean, like, yeah, there's some pretty bad stuff in the NWA, and it's hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore. Double D, that's a good question. Thank you for asking. The NWA World's Heavyweight Championship was always a touring title. And seeing the title become kind of just a prop for Power and the signature live events is kind of disappointing. When Trevor held the title, he did not take it anywhere. When Tyrus held the title, he only took it to NWA events. In the olden days, the 10 pounds of gold went everywhere. Remember, Ric Flair didn't just wrestle for Jim Crockett Promotions. Ric Flair wrestled across the whole country. He wrestled Japan. He wrestled in Hawaii. He wrestled in anywhere they'd book a world championship match. Australia, New Zealand. Same thing with Harley Race. Same thing with Jack Briscoe. Same thing with Dory Funk and Terry Funk. That title traveled the world. And for it to be kind of a stagnant position and just being a prop for Power has never been what it should have been. Even Aldis in his second run was still taking that title outside of Power, outside of the NWA. And I feel like that's what makes the title important. The national title, the North American title, were always considered the number one contender, number two contender to the 10 pounds of gold. And if you have your North American champion or your national champion, and let's look at it this way. Since there is no North American title, let's disregard that and just say the national championship, the belt that Mike Mondo has right now. Mondo should be featured as like the Power champion. The Power champion should be, because that's kind of like the main territory for the NWA is the TV show Power. So Mondo should be on every card. Mondo should be defending that at every single taping. But the World Heavyweight Championship shouldn't necessarily be at every single Power tape because the World Heavyweight Championship should be across the world. Now, we're also talking about a TV brand. So the TV championship should really be defended on every TV episode, but not necessarily every signature live event. But, Billy's kind of got it all mixed up, and he just kind of does what he wants to do. But back in the day, that's what it was. That's what it was. So your national champion, whoever was carrying the national title and whoever was carrying your North American title were the guys that could potentially become the next world's heavyweight champion. And in a more modern era, a guy like Damian Wayne, who was the North American champion, was always kind of thought that he'd be the next world heavyweight champion, although that never happened for him. Maximilian from Argentina says, do you know Giant Gonzalez? I know of him, but I never met him. I don't think he's alive anymore. And then they said, close enough. Welcome back, KO. Thanks, RX. Appreciate you. Willie says, Silas Mason will be on the EPW Memphis Heritage Championship Wrestling next month. Yes, very excited to see Silas Mason getting booked. Again, this is where the World's Heavyweight Champion should be. Should be everywhere. And I know that there was a falling out between Billy Corgan and David Marquez, but I still think Silas Mason should be on an episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood defending the 10 pounds of gold. I think Silas Mason should be taking the 10 pounds of gold and wrestling at OVW. And he should go down to Reality Wrestling and defend the title there as well. He should be taking that title to every single top independent wrestling promotion in the world. And if he could get an opportunity to defend the title in Japan and for All Japan Pro Wrestling or New Japan or NOAH, he should. That's what that title is supposed to be. Thank you for the Heart Me Wrestle Rant. That the World's Heavyweight Championship should be the top prize in pro wrestling, not just the NWA, in pro wrestling. Now, I know that's not the case, right? And it'll never be a top title for the major 4 or 5 promotions in the United States and around the world. But there's no reason that Silas Mason couldn't be taking that title to All Japan. There's no reason he couldn't be taking it to Canada and Maple Leaf Pro. There's no reason why he couldn't take the title to Rev Pro in the UK. I mean, that championship should be seen all across the world. Promos in the middle of matches is another thing that irritates me. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I hate that. And again, this is when your showrunner, who I guess is Billy, not Billy Corgan, but the other Billy, they need to clean that up. It's why? Why are we getting any matches interrupted? And thanks for sharing out the live, Sean. Appreciate you, sir. And thanks for the follow. Appreciate that as well. Yeah, Jack Gallagher. That's it. I'm all right with them banning Rolando Freeman. I didn't really see a whole lot of value in Rolando, but that's just me. Oh, WrestleRant, thanks for the cake slices, brother. Appreciate you, sir. All right, Chris is going to say something that's going to trigger fans. He says, can I say something? Why travel the belt if there's no legit chance for a title change? Well, Chris, I think you just answered your own question. Why isn't there a legitimate chance for a title change? Why can't they do that? Why wouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't they do that? Look, I'm not saying you're going to put the belt on, Danny Limelight, but why not have the title defended in United Wrestling Network? Why not take the title to MLW? What's bad about that? Explain it to me. Explain it to me like I'm a dummy. I don't think that triggers anybody. I think they should. And, Chris, again, that title I felt like was redundant. And I love Plunkett. You know this. I love Jeremiah Plunkett. It's not getting publicized. Well, what is he doing to change it? And I'm not trying to be a dick. And I want nothing but success for Plunkett. But I told him a couple months ago, maybe even a year ago, tell me when you're defending the title, and I'll put links on our website for it. I'll put links to your YouTube page. Russell Rant says Danny is Ortiz light. Do you mean like Tito Ortiz light? What do you mean, Russell Rant? Explain yourself. Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, the Funks, and Ricky Steamboat were traveling legitimate NWA World Heavyweight Champions. Hey, Willie, let's add to that list Adam Pearce, Colt Cabana, Blue Demon Jr., right? Jack Stain, Rob Conway, Tim Storm, Nick Aldis. Those guys were all traveling legitimate traveling champions. Santana. Oh, I got you, Russell Rant. Santana's old buddy. Yeah, I mean, there was a show, Russell Rant. Sorry to get off course here, but they did a show in Mesa, Arizona. It was Danny Limelight defending the title against Eddie Kingston. In the middle of the match, somebody was trying to interfere, and all of the Puerto Rican wrestlers that you mentioned that you could think of, Santana, they all kind of came in the ring and bonded together in that moment, and it was pretty cool. It was a good moment. Let's see. That's right. Join the Discord. Mr. Dead Card Gamer says, ever since Aldis dropped the belt, last time the title hasn't felt like a big deal. I mean, look, you could, I could certainly acknowledge that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. There's times where that belt has certainly felt unimportant. I just mentioned, Tyrus's reign as champion, although he did defend the title in Mexico, but it was under the NWA banner, and, Billy Corgan flew him out. So it's not the same. Adam Pearce took the 10 pounds of gold to Australia without really having a big name, right? Adam Pearce, yes, he is the WWE's Raw general manager today, but when he was defending the 10 pounds of gold, it wasn't like he was a huge name in the industry. And likewise, having Rob Conway take the title to New Japan Pro Wrestling, that was a big deal. Aldis taking the title to China, again, that was through David Marquez, but it's still a big deal. Having that title defended on All In against Cody Rhodes was a huge deal. When was the last time something big like that happened? It's been a while. But we have seen guys like Tom Latimer take the title and defend it on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which I think was a huge deal. EC3 took the title, defended it in All Japan Pro Wrestling. I feel like that's a huge deal. We've got Silas Mason, who won the title back in October. Now we're starting to see, August. We're now starting to see that title getting defended more frequently now that TV's caught up to it. So I really feel like you're going to see more exciting things out of the NWA. But the biggest thing to me is Silas is going to defend the title in New Mexico. When's the last time anyone took the NWA World title to the territory in New Mexico? I'm sure he'll be out in Texas. I can almost guarantee it's going to happen. He's wrestling in all these other ancillary promotions. He wrestled in Wrestle Revolver in Dayton, Ohio, took the title to Dayton, Ohio for the first time in a long time. The title's never been on Wrestling Revolver, and that's a pretty legitimate wrestling promotion. They have they run their shows on Triller. Silas Mason took the title on Triller. First time the title's been on Triller in a while. So, I mean, these are all important things, and I feel like this is stuff to get excited about, stuff to get behind. Yeah, and that's the thing too, Rick. Yeah, and to what Chris said, yeah, the title has changed hands and it weren't recognized. I would prefer them, look, in a perfect world, there would be an independent show where Matt Cardona would win the world title, or even somebody like Richard Holiday, or somebody like all of a sudden I drew a blank on his name, Alexander Hammerstone. There are some guys that I would be 100% absolutely fine with a title change. But the problem is the NWA booking is so stretched far out that the TV is their priority, and their priority is 3 months behind it. If you do change the title at an indie show or at a live event, it takes so long for the NWA to catch up to it. That's why I feel like they need to tighten up that production, and it shouldn't be a 2-month turnaround. It should be a 2 to 3 week turnaround. And yeah, that's a good point too. Russell Rand said that's a good discussion on the prestige value of the NWA Championship in modern times. Who wore the belt should matter more than the popularity of a promotion. I 100% agree with that. Matthew, I don't know if you're just trying to troll Chris, but controversial that might trigger fans. Why have your top title not named after your promotion? Like the IWGP World title? Is that what we're talking about? There's no 16-time nothing without that belt. That's true. Restaurant's talking about Ric Flair and his title, that it meant something. Oops. A bold take. The NWA champ should be challenging everyone Indie Star and should be in Vegas for Mania weekend. We might get that this year. There's a good chance, Chris, we might get that this year. It just depends. It just depends on what we're getting. Again, the NWA, it all ties together. TV is paramount. TV is everything for the NWA. They put the TV results behind, behind the kayfabe wall, and we don't find out the results of those matches until they air on TV. And the NWA doesn't treat those matches as if they exist until they air on TV. So that's a whole problem in of itself, trying to get to bring television up to date. And again, that's the NWA needs to speed up the process producing television. Mr. Dead Card Gamer says, I want the NWA to prosper so badly, but they have to make so many changes to be taken seriously. Channels that cover NWA just absolutely roast it. Well, Mr. Dead Card Gamer, I mean, you're on a channel right now that celebrates the NWA, and I'm not the only one. There are other channels that do roast the NWA, and honestly, some of that's deserved. But I do feel like there's a lot of positive with the NWA right now, and I don't feel like there needs to be a lot of changes. Some minor ones, production time, getting TV from 2 months to 2 weeks would be a huge step in the right direction. Hell, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, I mean, they do these things live, right? Well, I'm not asking them to do it live. I'm not even asking for a week, 2 weeks. Let's keep it somewhat relevant. Hey, Bobby. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Bobby. Thank you for liking the video. I appreciate you, sir. Sirena Veil, again, Crossfire has been coming up with some very talented young ladies in the NWA. You know, of course, that's, you know, we credit Crossfire for bringing the Paige sisters, Kylie and Kenzie, to the NWA. But, you know, Sirena has been like the third part of that. So it's very exciting to see that. Russell Rant said, I think it's the most attractive belt, at least top 3 for me. Boom, Russell Rant. Can we see this on TikTok? I don't know if you can see the 10 pounds of gold on TikTok. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. Cool. All right. So we've been talking a lot about pro wrestling, but we haven't talked a lot about tonight's episode of Power. So let's do that, shall we? Because I feel like there's some pretty cool things happening tonight on this week's Power. As the aforementioned, you know, we're getting ready to see. That was weird. We're getting ready to see Hollyhood Haley J make her official return to the NWA. Now, in total, Haley J has wrestled a total of 8 NWA sanctioned matches between NWA Chicago, NWA Crossfire. Her last NWA Power match, though, was like a year ago. So although she's been on the roster and had some pretty big opportunities in 2024, including the Burke Invitational and competing for the 4-way that vacant television championship last year, she even got to challenge Kenzie Paige for the Burke. This will be her first time back on TV in quite some time. And similarly, Sirena Veil has had a wealth of opportunities as well. She has, since joining Power just a few months ago, has challenged for the tag titles, the TV title, and for the Women's World Championship. So this should be an interesting matchup. Sirena Veil and sorry, I got distracted. And Haley J should be a fun match. And I honestly feel like both of these would be great. Well, you know, Sirena Veil has been a regular on the NWA roster for the last few months. In 2026, I hope we get more Sirena Veil. And then Haley J, although she's doing a lot with WOW and she still wrestles for Reality Wrestling, and I think she still does stuff with Ohio Valley, I hope in 2026 we'll see more Haley J in the NWA. Speaking of wrestlers, I want to see more in 2026 in the NWA. Anderson and Gallows. This is their first appearance in the NWA as a tag team now, going way back to prior to the Lightning One era, going way back. You know, Gallows and Anderson actually wrestled for those tag team titles back when Jax Dane and Rob Conway were the tag team champions. They actually had competed for those tag titles. It would be very fitting to see them win those titles in 2026. You know, Gallows and Anderson have held titles all across the world. Most recently won the titles at the Crash. I was at that event. I'll see them actually in about 2 weeks' time defend those titles again in Mexico and TJ. I'm very much looking forward to it. But they take on the team, the JV team, or as they're going by now, I guess the Handy. The Hardy? What are they? I don't want to say the name wrong. Matt, what's the name of that title? Or what's the name of that team now? Hey, Mr. Dead Card Gamer, I appreciate that. Let me finish talking about the NWA, and I'll get back to some of your some of your guys' comments. But yeah, Vaughn and Dalton, McKenzie, I feel like are great additions to the roster. I really did enjoy seeing them at the Crockett Cup, and they are now currently the NWA Chicago champions. All those titles were just won in the last month, so I don't think they'll be showing the titles on this week's episode of Power. But hopefully down the road we'll see more Vaughn and McKenzie on Power. And going forward, I'd really like to see both of these teams in this year's Crockett Cup. So 2026, a big opportunity for both teams. And of course, I don't think Gallows and Anderson are going to be exclusive to the NWA. I don't expect them to be, but I would love to see the NWA World Tag Team titles around those guys' waists. The other match on this one is, we talk about the stuff that hasn't been working for the NWA, and I love Joe Cazana, and I love AJ Cazana, and the Country Gentlemen should be a strong tag team for the NWA. But I'm done with the tomfoolery of the NWA interim president stuff. This has been booked poorly. It doesn't make any sense. Why are their territories infighting? That doesn't make any sense to me. If anything, they should be working together to put on better cards to get better prestige in the NWA. Just saying that I'm a better wrestling territory than another territory doesn't make it so. And even if it did, what is the benefit to that? The NWA has a territory system. The territories should be working together to produce better matches, higher caliber talents. I mean, to be a part of the NWA, you're trying to get your people more exposure. So getting your guys on the card, I think, is great, but not at the point of punishing somebody else. This is where things get dumb. Joe Cazana books an empty arena brawl, punishing Hunter and Tyler Franks. What? Why? What's the point? This is dumb. And then Nightmare Sin is Austin Idol's group. I mean, he put these two together. We haven't seen them team up a lot. This is the third time Nightmare Sin has worked together, and they first started teaming at the Crockett Cup. So this will be the first time or third time that they've wrestled together as a tag team. Contrarily, Tyler Franks and Hunter have been teaming up together since about 2019. They've been known on the independents as Talladega Knights, which I think is a great name, and I wish that would be their NWA name. I wish they were working as a tag team more regularly. They also went by the Millennials back in the day. They used to work for PSW New South and IWA Mid-South, but this is the first time they put them together as a tag team on Power. And oddly enough, they have them representing Crossfire, but Tyler Franks has only wrestled a handful of matches for Crossfire. And again, Hunter's being targeted because Joe Cazana has beef with Tommy Henry, and because Hunter is engaged to Tommy's daughter, Kenzie, he's now on the blunt end of the stick. So it's just whatever. This is kind of the stuff that I feel like makes the NWA look dumb. And then in what I imagine is the main event, but I don't really know the match order. You've got the star of Impact Wrestling and NXT and SmackDown, Matt Cardona, makes his return to the NWA. He takes on Daisy Kill. Daisy Kill has been one of these guys that I feel like is just so close to having a breakthrough moment for the NWA. I really feel like we're going to see some big things for Daisy Kill in 2026, but not until he wrestles Matt Cardona on this week's episode of Power. Cardona has eyes for the 10 pounds of gold. But in order to get there, he's got to go through Daisy Kill first. So that's what we're going to see this week on Power. I would love to see more Matt Cardona in 2026. I'd like to see Daisy Kill get a push in 2026. And I'm really feeling like things are moving in the right direction. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, still fool me. I'll keep giving the NWA chances as long as they keep doing things that are exciting to me. And with having Matt Cardona, having Hollyhood, Haley J, and having the Good Brothers on this card, I really feel like, again, we're seeing some stars. We're seeing some big names. Does that translate to credibility? Maybe. We'll see. There's no time like the present, and the NWA is now. So we'll see what happens. Again, Power airs every Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern, and the replay at 11 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports. It's available on the Roku app, completely free. You just need to have an account. There's no charge for it. And it's available on demand all the time on that same Roku app. Rick Del Santo, and I agree with you, Rick. 100% I agree with this. It would be nice if the NWA did live specials or pay-per-view type events on either YouTube or Triller or even Roku. They've gone too long without doing it and are now just a TV company. It's true. It's sad but true. Roku is a good outlet for them, but they need to take advantage of it. And if they can't do live events on Roku, then going back to Triller or going to YouTube and doing some live events, I think would be beneficial. Can they do pay-per-views? I don't know if anyone's willing to pay for the product at the moment. I mean, I might, depending on what we're going to get booked, but I'm not a slam dunk guarantee that I will order an NWA pay-per-view just because it's an NWA pay-per-view. Give me quality. Give me content. Give me good wrestling. That's what I want. Patrick, I answered your question. You'll have to go back and watch the replay. But basically, he can bring back any title he wants to. It just doesn't have a direct correlation to any other promotions. So this is where it ends. Where my hand is, this is where the camera ends. You're safe and clear. Wife doesn't want to be on camera. What's happening to Mission Pro? I think Mission Pro is, as of right now, it's done. Thunder Rosa and Brian Cervantes, both of them were very kind to be on the show in the past. They are no longer married. They are divorcing, and I don't think that Mission Pro has a future right now, at least not until that is settled. The Good Brothers will be in Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah. Again, that's awesome. Is it possible for the NWA to have a faster turnaround? Absolutely. The NWA literally films very similarly to how the United Wrestling Network does. United Wrestling Network has been filming in Southern California the last year, doing shows in Irvine and in Oxnard. And the turnaround time is about a week, maybe 2. There's no reason for them to take 2 months to take a live event and turn it into a TV show. It should take about a week or 2. There's no excuse for it. And I think it's silly that the NWA has not done it better. Carl Anderson was NWA World Tag Team Champion with a different partner. Yeah, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson was World Tag Team Champions with the disgraced former pro wrestler Joey Ryan. In fact, they had a lot of heat when they were tag team champions. And after they lost the belts to Los Luchas, Joey Ryan continued to work for the NWA, where Carl the Machine Gun Anderson started working for New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he would eventually tag team with Giant Bernard, winning the IWGP World Tag Team titles, and then later with joining the Bullet Club with Finn Balor and Gallows to form that tag team, that trio. Little group called the Bullet Club. And talk about a power couple. What do you talk about, Double D? Anyways, that's going to do it for us, guys. Again, really appreciate you hanging out with me for the last 52 weeks. We've been doing this every Tuesday at this time. You guys have been awesome showing out for us. I do appreciate you. This is the last episode of the year because, well, next week is a new year. January 6th will be the next episode of the pre-party, and I hope you guys will be here for it. What can I say? I'm very proud to host this show. I'm very proud of the audience. You guys participate and have these great NWA discussions. If you know people who like the NWA and are not watching this show, hey, send them a link. Invite them to the Discord. Let's grow this community. You guys have helped me grow this community way bigger than I ever thought imaginable. And I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. And I'm hoping that you guys will keep doing what you're doing. It's been a great year. I've had a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of this in 2026. So stay tuned. January 6th, the pre-party returns. Not that we've missed any time because we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. Power airs at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. It's just a few more hours. Or you can watch it on demand. the NWA On Demand channel on the Roku app, or you can watch Wrestling Central, which features content from both the NWA and Women of Wrestling. But until next time, my friends, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media